So think about a time where you felt like you were in a training or some kind of class. Maybe you've recently gone back to, study something in professional development or continuing ed, something like that. And you felt like you were being talked at and not talked with or talked to, right? Not if you feel like you've had that experience, yeah? Raise your hand, great. So I would say everybody probably has had that experience. And so I'm excited to be here today to kind of explain and really articulate with you all the difference between what we call andragogy, which is adult learning principles, and pedagogy, which is K-12 learning principles. So andragogy is all about adult learning. And so by the end of this short 45 minutes together, you'll all have a really good understanding about not only the definition of andragogy. I'm going to share 6 learning principles with you here in the next few minutes. But you're also going to get to practice with them. So as you are thinking about and getting your head around these principles, I want you to kind of start looking around and thinking about who might your group be. So I'd like you all to be in groups of 3 to 4 people as we workshop, okay? 3 to 4 people. So you got about 10 minutes to figure that out, okay? Sound good? All right. So the first learning principle is choice. So adults like to have choices. And yeah, I'd encourage you to take notes. I gave you a little cheat sheet behind here in a few minutes for the workshopping time. But yeah, taking some notes here will be really good to really think about how do you engage with the people that you manage and the events that you're going to be planning here in the years ahead. So choices. We really want our learners to feel like they have choice. And we can do that by breaking up learning content into all kinds of different micro-learning environments. We can do that by thinking about how we might remove words from learning experiences, especially things that are online and pre-recorded. How do we respect and give people choices so we are really thinking about their time? Because as adults, we don't have a lot of extra time to really sit and immerse ourselves in learning experiences. So at Desklight, we're always thinking about how to make things more efficient and more enjoyable for our learners by giving them choice. The second thing here, and I didn't say at the beginning, these are all in the book that I wrote recently, Learning in the Wild, if you're interested, and I can talk more about the book here at the end. But the second one is my experience is honored. So hence the question at the beginning. We want to feel like everything we've done in the past as grown-ups is honored when we're asked to learn something new and when we choose to embark into a new learning experience on our own. We want to feel like we're not being talked at, but we're talked with. And we're equally part of this learning experience. So some of the best learning experiences are when we get to have a conversation and we get to really talk about what it is that you've done. And unfortunately, we have 45 minutes, but if we had a little bit longer, I'd love to hear, what have you done that influences your reason why you're sitting here in this room and chose this over the other sessions? Why are you interested in learning? Why are you interested in learning about adult learning principles? So experience, honoring your experience, honoring your learner's experience. Learners need to feel ready. So they really need to feel like they're grounded and they really understand how they're going to leverage that content. So feeling like, okay, I'm really ready in this moment. I have, maybe a new pet coming into my life, for example. I'm going to really feel ready for that online puppy school. So making sure you know why your learners are ready for that experience. And asking them to articulate that also is always good. This will help me right now, so it has to be immediately relevant to them. We've all been in K-12 environments in our past lives where you're wondering why in your math class you can't apply something right now, and that's the problem. You feel like, when am I ever going to need to know this, right? You remember those moments? This is what I'm talking about. So how will this help me now, and how will I be able to use it? And you need to find their motivation, so helping them ground in their why. So what does that mean? Maybe you're motivated because you are having a new child come to live with you, for example. You're motivated because you need to learn that stuff. You are looking for a promotion, so you're going to want to get really grounded in a particular job description and get all of that extra knowledge, and you're motivated to get that raise or to get that next level up. So I know many of you all are managing the people that are making learning experiences at your events. So thinking about how might you coach the people that are working with you and for you to be able to use some of these things just to keep us grounded there. So your why is perhaps that. And I need to know this. So, based on, how all of these things that we've just talked about are landing, they need to know all of this first. So this is also very different from pedagogy, where you walk into a class and you don't really know why you're there and you don't really know how you're going to apply it. But for adults, we really need to know first before we're asked to sign up. So, for example, at Desklight, we just did a project with a graduate school to help them articulate very clear learning objectives for every single course that's part of their overall program for master's students. They had never done that. So many graduate school students, right, are asked to sign up and pay tuition, and they don't really know what they're signing up for, if everybody's really honest. So how can we ground them and help them understand what it is that they're going to get before you ask them to sign up? So quick story, this is a project we did at Desklight a few years ago for Techstars. It's a global tech accelerator that you might be familiar with, based out of Boulder, Colorado, but they have locations and accelerators across the globe. And they came to us and said, we would love for you to help us to really put all of the curriculum that we're teaching the accelerator founders, participants in our program, into some kind of a digital hub. So we create some efficiency, and we're not leaning on the thought leadership, the subject matter expertise of all the instructors and teachers, faculty members that we're hiring across the globe. And we said, that's perfect, that's what we love to do. And we leveraged andragogy in that project in all of the 6 ways that I just talked about, but I'll share just one for the sake of time. We gave them choices. So we said, okay, these accelerator participants are arguably going and pitching their ideas for funding or for product service development all the time. They don't have a lot of time to sit through a very linear webinar series, right, or anything like that. So how might we design a digital hub that would give them choices? So you can see here, maybe not very well, but you can go to toolkit.techstars.com on your phone or later on your computer. And you can check out, we designed these as little cards, little flashcards almost, so that it's very clear that the founders can go in and look at the content in a non-linear way. They can sort of pick and choose what they're interested in and do it on their own time. And it's very short and sweet, quick videos, and they can get in there and not have to log in. All of those considerations we were thinking about, how can we make this a really seamless experience for the founders, knowing that they're so busy and they're all adult learners. Okay, so now it's your turn. As I said, I wasn't going to talk too long, so go ahead and get into your groups of 3 to 4 in the next 30 seconds or so. This is your cheat sheet, okay? These are the 6 principles we just went through. Okay, so learners want choices, they want to feel honored in their experience, they want to feel ready to learn, they want help right now, they want to feel motivated, they need to know their why, and they need to know what they're going to learn first. Okay, quick review there. So you're going to take these and you're going to, think about a learning experience or an event that you or your team have designed in the last 2 years, 3 years. Just think of one, and you can choose as a group which one you want to focus on. So it doesn't have to be anything too specific, but one person in your group is going to bring that up. And you're going to think about taking just one of the 6 principles and rethink that event, just one of these 6. And so you might think, so some examples, perhaps you move from a keynote format to a roundtable to honor your learner's experience. That's a quick example. Maybe you survey your learners first and offer a new format like office hours that work to fit their schedules a little bit better. Or maybe you consider chunking the learning into micro lessons that are, choose-worthy at unique times for each learner. So I just wanted to give you guys a few quick 3 examples to get started. So we'll just do this for about 7-8 minutes. Any questions on that? All right, cool. Have fun. Okay, so we've got our topic that somebody in your group introduced, and hopefully we've thought about that topic, that concept, and introduced one new learning principle and thought about how that concept might change a little bit. So here we go. Next thing, and clicker, clicker, clicker. There we go. So the next thing we're going to do is level up a little bit on that idea. So we're going to now think about an approach. So taking what you have, your concept and your new principle, and overlaying it with a new approach. So maybe we were just talking in the back about what could a new approach be for teaching medical practitioners and doctors about use cases. So solo virtual session, perhaps. You're sitting in the room, your learner's sitting in the room by themselves on a computer, by themselves, without a group. Maybe it's a group. Maybe it's app-based 3-minute micro lessons from just a phone. People can use it anywhere they want. Perhaps it still remains an in-person classroom session. I think that's a fair thing to have on the list these days because we're going so virtual that you can think about, is there a value in actually being together in a classroom like this? You know, being together in real time, there's still really good moments in time that we need to do that for the sake of bonding, community building, practice. So think about that. Perhaps it's a field trip. You take everybody out into the wild, if you will, and go to a competitor's place, factory, hospitality. Maybe you go check out a new hotel that you've been kind of eyeing and you're watching their data on a spreadsheet, but you haven't been there yet. How about you take everybody there and check it out and have dinner at a restaurant there? Podcast. So this is a great tool that I've found many people don't use. Just a great interview to really understand some more levels of intimacy around that learning and that concepting. How can you take people into that just by doing a podcast, which is essentially an interview, just a conversation. And there's some beauty in that informality. You never really know what people are going to say in podcasts, which I think makes it really fun. One-on-one training / mentorship. So maybe you think about how you will matchmake some people based on a curriculum that you've pre-made or that your team has pre-made and get them off and running, and then create a way for them to loop back, give you that feedback and see what you learn and what others can learn from that. So it's a nice kind of cycle that can start. Of course, gamification is big. It's very trending right now, right? Especially as it relates to online digital gaming. But I think offline gaming is pretty cool too. You know, people love games generally. Most people enjoy games. There's a few people that don't. We all have a family member that doesn't really enjoy board games, right? But it's really fun as it relates to learning new things. It makes it fun, and it's just generally like smaller expectations around absorption. So it's a quick way to help teams think differently about that 4-hour webinar. Just gamify it, see what can happen, and play with that. Microlearning, we've talked quite a bit about already. VR as a tool. If you have budgets that support VR, it's actually not as expensive and scary as most people think, looking into that. But I'd say I write about it a lot in Learning in the Wild. VR is great if you have evergreen content, meaning stuff that doesn't need to change for like 5, 7, maybe 10 years. Invest in that VR experience and kind of think about how you can just kind of have VR do some really great heavy lifting for you, while perhaps you have a strategy around gamification and some micro-learning. And it's just a nice package you can start playing with. Happy to talk more about that if anyone's interested. Hackathon. Maybe you get people together and you give them a challenge. Well, we're working with a client right now just to come up with challenges as it relates to learning experiences or learning objectives. So we have our LOs, if you will, learning objectives, and now we're thinking about, okay, how do we get more people engaged and involved just by developing things in a competition, a hackathon? So that's really fun to play with. Pop-up learning station. So this happens sometimes at retail. You know, you think about going to Bed Bath & Beyond, right? Everybody's been to like the, station at Bed Bath & Beyond that teaches you something. Sometimes it's really cheesy, but sometimes it's really fun. And you might even buy that product that was advertised with that pop-up learning station. So how might you leverage that in your work as event leaders? And lastly, just one more example, job shadowing. So this is an underused resource. It's just to go and apprentice with somebody. That's something people used to do a lot more of, but we don't do it much anymore. And I think that is something we can leverage. So how do you create that learning experience and then pull it into a way that people can job shadow, ask questions? It's a beautiful system for Q&A that's built in. And it helps people not feel like they have to have all the answers, too. There's a humility to it. People can learn stuff really, really fast in a job shadowing situation without it feeling punitive at all. OK, so go ahead and get back in your groups. And now overlay one of these. Choose one. I know you guys will probably have fun deciding which one you're going to use. Hopefully you will. And then we'll come back together, and we're going to have 2 groups present. So be thinking about if you all want to present your idea, Shark Tank style. and there'll be a little prize at the end. So go ahead, about 7 minutes or so again on this one. We're gonna have a couple of groups present as we're wrapping up here. So everybody has an idea that you've been workshopping. You've got one new principle that you've introduced to your idea, and now you have a new level up on your approach to that idea. So I would love to have two presenters volunteer to share what has changed, what you pivoted. So you just introduce your idea for about 30 seconds where you were, and then talk about where you are now, just from the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so. Yay! Go you! Awesome. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Lexi.
Okay, great.
We're not live streaming this, right? Like, I don't need to.
You can do it. Do those work? Can we use those? Okay, great. Yeah, you can use the mic.
Okay, great. I will. Student. All right. My name is Lexi. Yes, there we go. I'm with a trade association out of DC. One of our small meetings is for the intellectual property lawyers of our member companies. And one of the things they've been asking for a long time is a better way to get best practices. So we have sponsored sessions, panels, where they sit up on the dais and they talk about, various research or best practices and whatnot, but we need a way for them to share. So the thing that, from the previous slide, that made the most sense to us was that concept of taking like a keynote and moving it into a roundtable. I was thinking mostly about how they can sort of speed dating style, like table hop, and make sure that it's a good environment. A lot of these intellectual property lawyers, they're a shop of 1, 2, maybe 3 people, and they don't have a lot of opportunities, like us too, to sort of talk to other people that are doing the same thing that they are and share. So moving to more of a roundtable concept made sense. On the level up thing here, I will say, and this is sort of a question that I have for you too, if we have time to go into it, a lot of these feel one-to-many delivery. And the example that we had started with based on the previous exercise was sort of a many-to-many concept. So for me, I think really it works here, but I think one of the only things that feels like it works here is hackathon. So that's one of the concepts that we went with. But not to answer a question with another question, but one of the things I'm super interested in is like other sort of many-to-many formats, and then also one-to-many formats that work for large groups. That's the other thing. Our annual is 20,000 people, and we have about 18 concurrent breakouts, and they're just like, 250 people in a room. Like, how can we make that spicy? So,
I love that.
That's my
nice
piece.
work. Round of applause, everybody. Yeah. Yeah, just to address that quickly, yes, hackathon, absolutely. There's also, for scalability and efficiency through that scalability, train the trainer models around a competition, challenge, hackathon. So you're training up leaders or facilitators of those hackathons or challenges, and then freeing them up to make it their own, and then go out and you've got an answer then for, I think you said 250 people or more, to get them all doing a hackathon. And then of course you have the diversity of those ideas that come back together, and maybe you have a big grand prize for whoever has that best idea. But happy to talk more about that. Lots of ideas there. Yeah, awesome. Sure. Yep.
Right? So you have a differing, sometimes a different need, right? Some people are in it to learn specific things based on the work they do, and others like, I gotta get 7, so I can turn it in to get my license, right?
Yeah.
So that's a unique challenge from time to time, depending on your group, because you know who's coming, or you can usually tell who's coming to get hours.
Yep. Yep.
And I shared, for example, we had one that over 3 times, 800 people taking it, only 200 people playing CE, so that topic was something that everybody was fascinated in, but they didn't care.
Yeah, lots to talk about there. There's ways to design the LMS or whatever tool you're using to ensure that they can't just fly through it and they actually are learning, that's chunked in that way. So there's that. But then also little things like maybe there is a field trip element that makes that's incrementally innovative, but it makes that seemingly punitive endeavor of getting that next certification a little bit more fun and hopefully a little bit more intriguing and interesting and makes them more curious. So to address that. But then also, we spend a lot of time thinking about what are those, I like that you were talking about bridging, of the content. We found that many people in many industries are really curious about soft skills and how do they, develop more leadership ability and maybe even get some things that they couldn't get from any kind of ongoing graduate program or MBA that they might be looking into. Those bridging things around soft skills. So how might you integrate some soft skill development and little maybe earned income strategies in between those seemingly sometimes punitive certification endeavors that they're already doing. So much to talk about there, and I'm really glad you brought that up. Okay, I have one more group present, about the same length of time. Yeah, thank you.
We're very excited. Hi, everyone. My name's Kathy Mason. I'm with YPO, a Young Presidents Organization, but that's not relevant here. We came up with a fun, exciting topic. We decided to have fun with this. And taking from the last session before lunch of the top trends happening right now, we decided to come up with a virtual learning around how to effectively bleisure. In fact, we already have a title called Effectively Beef Up Your Bleisure When Going to Your Next In-Person Meeting. And this all stemmed from a conversation. Ashley's organization does virtual learnings by Zoom for an hour. Well, we decided that 5 to 7 minute micro learnings would be much more efficient on a topic, and we just decided to have fun with this, so here we go. So we would have 2 tracks, one for the event professional planning the event, and a second track for the attendees only. So number one being, what is the definition of bleisure? Most people don't know. We all know, but people outside our industry don't. Number 2 is, do you go before or after the event? How do you design your trip around it? And then incorporate in the event design of the event itself a little bit of bleisure activity during the events. Not off-site education, but something like a scavenger hunt or something that's purposeful in the destination you're in. Then discuss useful resources to restaurants, activities, the CVB, CVA, et cetera. All the resources and how to effectively get involved with bleisure. And then lastly, have testimonials of previous bleisures. We've come up with that word, whether it's one or not. And that's
Great.
as far as we got. But just having something fun around that in micro learnings.
Yeah, nice work. Yeah, very creative. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for you guys, the 2 groups that presented. And yeah, I'd encourage you to continue thinking about this group example that you put together very quickly, all things considered, in a few minutes. And hopefully you will take away all of these principles and, it'll change some of the ways that you manage your teams and the ways that you think about this stuff moving forward. So I have a few slides to get through here as we wrap up, and if there's time, we can do a little Q&A. Happy to stay after and talk one-on-one for anyone who's interested also. So if you're interested in more of this kind of thing, at Desklight we have a workshop called Shuffle. We can do it virtually or offline with groups to do more of this sort of let's experiment with learning experiences and kind of figure out what's going to make sense for bigger teams to manufacture, think about. And sometimes it just kind of helps break out of some assumptions and kind of think more about what could we build together. And sometimes it's not all that expensive, and it's stuff that you can do and implement pretty quickly. And then, like I said, Learning in the Wild, my book here, I have some cards with QR codes if you're interested in learning more about that. It's for learning leaders to really think about learning as a benefit to organizations. So happy to share more about that. And this is a bit more about what we do at Desklight. We are an innovation company that specializes just in educational experiences, learning experiences. And we work really hard to understand what learners want and need, and then co-create together with teams what learning experiences can look like and feel like, either offline or online. And then, so 3 key takeaways from today. I hope this helps you to think about those 6 andragogy principles and start to think about how to implement those into your work and life. Great with kids, too. Some kids really are more andragogy people than pedagogy people. We might have kids that are saying to us, hey, my math class is irrelevant to me. How can you make it relevant to them, right? So good for personal life stuff, too. I think more pedagogy needs to be more like andragogy anyway, but that's beside the point. So you can also think about how to leverage technology in your learning experiences so things are a bit more choiceful, if you will. Think about social connection. Adults like social connection, either off or online, and they need to know why they're doing it. And then thinking about, just self-direction and choice around how adults really want that independence like we've talked about. And then lastly, approaches. So we had a short list, and to Lexi, right? To Lexi's point, there's a lot more to that list. So thinking about how might you just think about different approaches, different recipes for learning experiences that are really different and creative. And as we saw just from the two groups that presented, we celebrate creativity with this stuff, right? It can get really fun where there's an assumption that it has to be boring or punitive. No, it doesn't. It can be really fun. So I hope you leave today with a spirit of fun and a spirit of creativity.